Today, I'm talking about the Endorphin Pro versus the ASICS Metaracer. .00 miles, running a 4x2 mile workout on each of the last 2 days, so I can compare the Endorphin Pro by Saucony versus the Metaracer by ASICS. Now, before I get into my thoughts on each of these two racing shoes, I do want to go over some disclosures. The Endorphin Pro is a shoe that I bought with my own money, and the Metaracer was a pair of shoes that was given to me by Running Warehouse. However, nobody is reimbursing me for the purchase price of any shoes or paying me to make this video. And no one's gonna get a chance to preview my thoughts or footage before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. Now, with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about these two racing shoes. Now, what we have here is Flytefoam versus PWRRUN, old school versus new school in this head-to-head battle, and it's pretty exciting. ASICS comes in with an old school style racer, but don't be fooled, this has tons of new technology in it. We've got a new formulation of Flytefoam, which is a little bit different than the Flytefoams that we've seen in the past, and also very different from the Flytefoam, I can't ever say that word, Flytefoam Blast that we've seen in the Nova Blast. So a unique type of EVA midsole material, which is absolutely fantastic to run in. This racing shoe comes in at 6.7 ounces, so it is a featherweight with just 16 millimeters of cushion in the forefoot on an 8 millimeter heel drop shoe. Now, in contrast, what we have in the Saucony Endorphin Pro is more of that thick is fast new school of racing shoes, where we've got a bunch of midsole cushion in here, and here we have PWRRUN PB. We've seen PWRRUN in the Kinvara, PWRRUN Plus in the Triumph 17, and this is PWRRUN PB, a specific formulation of that PWRRUN midsole foam that Saucony has unleashed for this year. And we're coming in at 25 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot on an 8 millimeter drop. Now, they're both fantastic shoes. They're both extremely fun to run in. They're both definitely racers. They're snug fit uppers that are extremely breathable and comfortable from like a racing perspective. So this isn't something that I necessarily want to put on my feet every single day, but when it comes race time, these have a little bit more give in the uppers than I've seen in other racing shoes. So it's very comfortable for its intended purpose. Now, the way that I would differentiate these two shoes is I'd like to think of it as a story of horsepower versus torque, overall strength throughout the power band versus a quick ability to get revving to redline fast. So when I ran in the Saucony Endorphin Pro, the sensation that I got was there's definitely a lot of midsole cushion in here, and there is that full length carbon fiber plate that gives you a strong sense of push up that I found particularly pleasant. I was able to get up to those marathon paces or marathon efforts and even exceed them a little bit at times, so I found myself pulling back a little bit. And I got there and I could just stay there really easy, very easy to set it and forget it, get into cruise control. It's the grand tour of marathon racing shoes. You just get to that speed and you can cruise for a long period of time. It felt very comfortable to run at those marathon paces for me. The thing that I did note is this area is a lot hillier than my home turf in Chicago where I first tested this shoe. And something that I noticed is while I like the shoe for regular marathon paces, I love the shoe when I'm running downhill. For some reason, even the very steep downhills here, where I would normally find myself braking a little bit and trying to slow down and control my momentum down the hills, I find myself really pushing it with the Endorphin Pro. And it makes me wonder if perhaps I'm not loading the carbon fiber plate enough to really get the full benefit of the shoe. Maybe I'm not light enough, maybe I'm not running fast enough, and it's only when I'm getting into those really faster speeds that I'm loading this carbon fiber plate, because the way it works is you hit, when you impact the ground, you load that carbon fiber plate and it's very stiff, but as you move it, it wants to become unbent and then it pops up. But I really felt, and the carbon fiber plate asserted itself very pleasantly on the downhills, that I really felt like, wow, this shoe lets me push it really hard and I don't feel unstable. I don't, any of the things that I kind of been feeling from the tall stack height and from the relative stiffness of this shoe all disappeared and turned into a really fantastic shoe that kept surprising me the faster I went. So not sure what that means. Maybe it's just, this is a great shoe for downhill running. Maybe that means some sort of, not deficiency in me, but maybe I'm not extracting the full benefit of all the engineering that's going on in the shoe. It's not like I didn't enjoy the shoe at other points. It just exceptionally shined on those downhill running efforts. But one of the things that I did feel like was that what I wanted was a little bit more of the shoe as I got towards the end of my workout. As I was feeling more tired, I felt like I wish it could just give me a little bit more, and it wasn't always able to do that. Now, going to the Metaracer, I talked to you that it's got like gobs of torque. I just feel like it's an extremely flickable shoe. Like just even thinking about running faster and boom, you're running redline, probably running a little bit faster than you intend. I found myself, as I was going in between intervals, going from my recovery pace back up to my marathon effort pace, that the moment I tried to pick up momentum, I was instantly running much faster than I was intending, and I had to constantly dial it back. I'm also not the most disciplined when it comes to running at a certain pace or at a certain level of effort. I find myself still trying to dial that in, and so that weakness of mine was definitely exacerbated by this shoe, because I think it's just a more precise of a shoe in that regard, that if you want to go fast, it will definitely help you get there, sometimes to your peril. So I found myself putting too much into the shoe very frequently. I was worried that taking this shoe on the 15-mile run today would be a bit too long for it, because it does get to redline so quickly. I feel like it's not necessarily a marathon shoe. And that's something that I had questions about from the first time I ran in the shoe. Like, is this a marathon racer? For me, I don't think that it is. I think that I would love to take this on long, hard workouts like today, which are 15 miles. Maybe I could take it to a 17-mile, even a 20-mile run. But would I want to race 26.2 at that marathon effort pace? I'm not sure that I could handle that. I just feel like the 16 millimeters was not enough. I felt myself needing just a little bit more cushion. The other thing that distinguishes this shoe from the Endorphin Pro is the differences in the way that they've applied the carbon in this plate. Now, I mentioned that in the Endorphin Pro, you've got full-length carbon fiber plate. In the Metaracer, you've only got 4-foot carbon. And I think something that they've done differently here is, instead of making it the full length, it's only the front, but also the placement within the midsole of where in this kind of like shoe sandwich does the carbon fiber plate land. Now, in the Endorphin Pro, the carbon fiber plate is in between this black layer of foam and the blue layer of foam. That's where it goes. And that's where it goes in most carbon fiber plated shoes. In this shoe, I believe that the carbon fiber plate is kind of more bottom loaded. And so there's foam, 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 carbon fiber plate, and then pretty much just the rubber on the outside. I don't know if there's a little bit more foam underneath that carbon fiber plate or not. One of the things that I do notice is that the feel in running in this shoe is very different than the feel in running in the Endorphin Pro. The feel in running in the Metaracer is more like in running in a racing flat that doesn't have a carbon fiber plate, that just has maybe a very bouncy, very stiff midsole foam material in it. So it's almost as if the carbon isn't there, except again, when I'm really trying to get up there and get onto those faster paces, then you start to feel it a little bit. But it's not that assertive, it's very subtle, almost as if it weren't there. So that's another big difference. If you're not a huge fan of that carbon fiber push that people get in their stride when they're running in racing shoes, the Metaracer might be exactly the type of shoe that you're looking for, because it is so subtle. It has it in there, you're getting that benefit, but without kind of the assertiveness that carbon can sometimes have. It puts me in a weird position of recommending the Metaracer because it doesn't have carbon fiber, and kind of not knocking, but noting that the Endorphin Pro doesn't have enough carbon fiber. I think in a lot of those situations, it's gonna come down to preference. But for me, when it comes to marathon racing, I'm definitely gonna go with the Endorphin Pro because I do like the stack height that's in here. The cushion definitely helps me for those longer runs where I just don't have the toughest feet. And the carbon fiber plate, when it is noticeable, it is really very nice. Now the question then becomes, what about at the half marathon distance? At the half marathon distance, I think I'm picking the Metaracer just because I just feel so fast in this shoe. And I just love the ability to pick up the pace at a moment's notice. I feel like for a race like the half marathon where you're pushing speed a little bit more than you're pushing the discipline and maintaining pace, I think that that's where the Metaracer and some of its kind of faults for a marathon distance run really become strengths. So those are my opinions on the Endorphin Pro versus the Metaracer. I'm sure that lots of you guys are going to disagree, and I'd love to talk to you guys about it more in the comments down below. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?